I'm excited to have Sue Rad and Nathan Brown with us on this episode of Hot Health. Sue, I've got a book that you have written on the table in front of me.
Yes.
Can you tell me something about yourself?
Well, I grew up in my grandmother's kitchen, literally, and she was the most tremendous inspiration in terms of my whole life, whether it comes to food or spirituality. She was instrumental in making me interested in studying nutrition and dietetics, which is what I went on to do down the track.
And Sue, I met you for the first time this evening.
Yes.
But it doesn't sound like you grew up in the United States.
I did not. I was born in what Ansel Keys would have called one of the 7 countries studies. So I was born in Croatia, and I lived there until I was 6 and brought up by my dear grandmother and grandfather. And really she taught me about the value of good food, preparing things from scratch, using natural, simple foods, but delicious food. And she was always an early adopter of anything that was good. So if she heard a sermon or heard something that was useful to be applied to her life, she adopted it.
So I understand that you're a dietitian and that you've had a journey to this end product here. Can you tell us something about the journey that you were on?
Yes, that's right. So I've been a dietitian for about 30 years now. It's a long time. And obviously I've always believed in the power of food to help people prevent disease or better manage it, even reverse disease. But it's really been in the last 10 years, I guess, that science has shown us how important food really is. Food is not neutral, as some people have been led to believe. Food is either healing you or harming you, and every mouthful does count. So because of the evidence that's been built up, I became fascinated by this concept of using food more medicinally, not just in a culinary way, but actually as a modality, as a treatment modality, as medicine. And so I started to investigate more of the studies that have been conducted where they have used food and actually compared it to a drug, such as a statin, for cholesterol reduction, and shown that a plant-based diet, for example, can be just as effective as a low-dose first-generation statin in lowering your cholesterol by up to 30%.
So
I think you should tell us a little bit about your practice in suburban Sydney, Australia, and
Yes.
Tell us about your practice and how that kind of developed and some of the, I guess, special features of what you do that then have fed into this recipe book.
Yes, so I have a clinical practice in Sydney, Australia, and since 2009, in addition to my staff, the dietitians seeing patients one-on-one, we have been running what we call culinary medicine cook shops.
Oh.
So they're a blend of like a nutrition workshop and a cooking class, because we came to the realization that you can talk to somebody and prescribe recipes and try and inspire them as much as you like, but if you showed them how to do it, if you let them taste the food, smell the food, that is where the money was. And so we've been running these events very successfully over many years, and people who have come have told their friends and family, and many people have contacted us from around the world, not just in Australia, and have said, can you share all those recipes? Give us the recipes, or can we watch these events? So this is one of the inspirations really for pulling this together so that we can share this with everybody, not just people in my clinic, but Australians, people right around the world, and particularly with our church members.
And one of the exciting things from a publisher's perspective, you got in touch with me and said, hey, I've got this idea, was that these recipes had been so road tested. You know,
That's true.
That they'd been demonstrated in that kind of public setting, that people have appreciated them, they've taken them home and cooked them for themselves. And so it wasn't just a collection of good ideas, it was collections of recipes that could work in real kitchens, in real people's lives, but that also had some significant science to it as well. And so from that perspective, it was a whole package well before it was a book. You know, there was some really quality to what we were working with when it came to saying, yeah, we could work with Sue and make a book from it.
So tell me what is different about this cookbook and food as medicine. There's lots of cookbooks out there.
Well, you know, the first thing is, I think, exactly what we've been talking about, that there is real-world kitchens and real-world science behind it. And that's
My
pretty
understanding
significant.
is that it's a vegan cookbook. Is that true?
We actually don't like to use terminology that can polarize people. And for some people, if you mention the word vegan, they run the other way. So we prefer to use the terminology of plant-based. And if you look at what's happening around the world with NGOs and governments, this terminology has become very popular. Everyone is starting to wake up and realize that we should all be eating more of a plant-based dietary pattern. So we talk about the range of plant-based dietary patterns, from the traditional, such as the Mediterranean diet, which is an area I'm doing research on at the moment, to the types of patterns developed specifically for research, such as the portfolio diet. So we give options. Most recipes are actually totally plant-based. I think there's a few that might have some tiny bit of traditional dairy, such as yogurt or something like that. But in every case, we give 100% plant-based options for those who wish to consume a 100% plant-based diet, because whichever way you look at it, the way the science is going, the way the evidence is going, it appears that the more plant-based we can become and the more of these unrefined whole plant foods that we can consume, the better it is for our health and well-being.
So you started off talking about your grandmother and your interest in food preparation, food and health. You became a dietitian. That seems like a little bit of a jump yet to a book.
It is true. I've always been a foodie at heart, but I've also always been interested in science and the evidence. And so this is what makes this book different. We really are underpinning really what in essence is an Adventist health message that has been espoused by our church for many, many years, but now with the very latest of science, such as, for example, research on the microbiome. So this is the universe that lives within us, within all of us, of good and bad bacteria that keep each other in check. But, you know, knowledge about the microbiome has opened up our thinking about just how important food is. We now realise it's much more important than we ever thought, because within hours of eating, you are feeding up either the good bugs
Or the ones that are causing disease.
Exactly. And it's what they make that matters. So when we eat, we're not just feeding ourselves, we're feeding them. So if you feed up the bad guys,
They take over.
They take over. And within hours, we now know they affect your brain function, affects your mood, affects anxiety levels, depression. I'm particularly interested in dementia. This is the area that we're looking at. Food is absolutely crucial. You know, it's not just food, obviously, it's physical activity and getting adequate rest and all those things Adventists have talked about for many years. But because we eat, not just once a day, for some people it can be 6 times a day, you know, there are multiple opportunities that we can either help to heal ourselves or to harm ourselves. So what we take for each mouthful really does make a big difference.
You also have a strong background in communicating this. This isn't your first book, and you've also done a lot of work in media and with public speaking on these topics as well. Give us a bit of an insight to that.
This is true. It's amazing how God opens doors when you are prepared to be used as a tool, in a sense. And there are many, many examples, but for example, I got a call one day and it was by somebody from a mosque, and they wanted me to come and film in their Muslim mosque because they were on a mission to help others as well, just like Adventists are on a mission to help others live a better, healthier life. So I did. I took one of my medico colleagues with me and we filmed all day. I had never been inside a mosque before, except as a visitor in Turkey. So whether it's a mosque or whether it's being invited to speak at exclusive retirement home in Sydney, a nursing home as well, Montefiore, which only includes the most well-to-do people in Sydney, Jewish people, or whether it's being
TV
invited.
appearances that you've
Many
done.
TV appearances, or even just most recently at Sydney University, something that we have adopted from America as it happens. New York University started this, and it's called Raising the Bar. I don't know if you've heard about this, but
I haven't.
on one single night at multiple bars, so we're talking bars where people drink alcohol, academics from New York University come and translate their scientific jargon and all their research into simple language and to something that the average person can understand. And so several universities now in the world have taken this on. Sydney University is one of those. And I was invited to present on this concept as food as medicine, even though I'm actually not one of the academics on staff at Sydney University. So tell me that that's not God working and opening doors for us to help others live a better and happier and healthier life.
That's very interesting. So you said that your grandmother introduced you to some of these concepts, and you've moved through being a dietitian at a hospital. Then you moved into some more PR work, but we've got the ultimate product here, this book. Tell me more about how this book came to be.
Well, in addition to the culinary research in my grandmother's kitchen, I have spent many years travelling to many different countries. I've always been interested in traditional dietary patterns because I think we could all learn something from these. People used to eat simply, used to eat in an enjoyable way, used to use seasonal foods, and diseases like chronic diseases, you and I know, were very low. They were pretty much absent. So I've spent many a time visiting villages in Greece, for example, cooking with grandmothers and aunties in Greece to discover their secrets. Because what I love about these traditional recipes is that they're usually really simple. They're simple and they're doable in a home kitchen.
And they taste good too.
And they taste good too. So I've tried to glean these ideas from many different cultures, test them, work them up so that they can be used in a kitchen in America, in Australia, in a Western country, so that we can also benefit from what they've known for so much, you know, for so long.
And I think that's one of the things that, again, with Sue as a unique author in that sense, because there's a lot of people that put out cookbooks that they're passionate about food. And they might even like the idea of being healthy, but they don't have a lot of deep scientific understanding of what that actually means. Or then you get the people who are the scientists, but don't know their way around the kitchen.
Can't cook.
And Sue brings both of those strengths to the task of pulling.
Well, it is kind of interesting here in the United States that there's a real interest in TV programs and more people being chefs and that kind of cooking. But if you go to individual homes, there's less and less and less cooking.
Yes.
And in fact, some of the leaders of thought in education in our country have said that the only way they think that the whole United States is going to get healthier is if we start requiring both boys and girls to take cooking classes. We used to call it home ec.
Yes. Yeah, that's cool.
But these people are talking about this because it's no longer, and nobody knows how to cook.
Absolutely.
They don't know how to
I could not
cook.
agree more. And in addition to the 150 recipes in the book, at the back we talk about these kind of things. So food literacy is crucial. It's where it's at. I mean, if it wasn't for my grandmother, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. She was a very strong role model. So it's our goal, it's our aim and desire to try and get everyone back into the kitchen with simple, you know, proven recipes, time-honoured recipes that taste good and that are good for you, and to teach our family, teach
So
the
I
young
understand
ones.
this cookbook has won an award.
Yes.
So early on in the process, when we were having a planning meeting, we were talking about it, we said we want to produce a cookbook that's worthy of winning an award, you know, that's, you know, as good a cookbook as we can possibly make. And so, as you'll see when you look through it, and you can see, you know, we've got full colour photos and some of those kind of things. You know, there's a photo of every recipe in the book, and we had all the photography done from scratch. So we had a team of people that made all the recipes and that made them look good, not just made them. You know, we have lifestyle photography as well. We developed a style that we really wanted it to be something that was beautiful. something that people would be proud to have sitting around in their home, and that looks like a serious cookbook that belongs with some of the other ones that are around. And we actually, when it came to choosing covers and even the final title, we did serious market research on it and put it out to some surveys. As flicking through the book, you can see even you've got your niece and nephew in some photo shoots with you.
Absolutely, it's a family affair.
So we had a lot of fun with that part of the process.
You need to take the family on the journey if you're going to eat well, otherwise it's not sustainable, right?
So we got to the point of saying, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it as well as we possibly can and to the highest possible levels. We had a great team of people working on it, and that's what we produced. So it was exciting. It was almost a year after it came out. We won the award for the best in the world.
Well, best in Australia first.
Well, firstly, the best in Australia, which we were very excited about.
Gourmand Cookbook Awards, which are from Paris, right, from France, and they're the family that run the Cordon Bleu cooking school. So very, very prestigious award. Yeah,
it's a massive. They hold the World Cookbook Awards each year, and last year when we received the award, they were held in China. It was They get entries from about 80 countries around the world in quite a number of different categories, but the category that we received the best in the world in for was Best Health and Nutrition Book, and we were pretty excited that we were in that category because everybody wants to be in that category. Some of the more obscure categories, perhaps there'd be fewer books, but this would be a crowded category. This is exactly where we want our book to be, and the manager of the publishing house was there, and he was kind of stunned on the day to be the one who'd won this award. Out of every cookbook published in the world in 2016, we were kind of...
In fact, he called me directly from China, and it was a Sunday night, and I thought, who's calling so late? And he said, Sue, are you sitting down? And I said, no. And he said, you have just won Best Cookbook in the world for health and wellness.
It says best in the world?
He was shaking. We were all shaking. We were so excited because we'd been praying about this. We wanted to do the best thing possible because we want this to go out to every single home, Adventist, non-Adventist, for Adventists to use it with their friends, to be a way that we can bring together the latest, best of science and the most delicious ideas from traditional kitchens.
And so it's not just a recognition of the work that was done and the good people that contribute to it and the great work that Sue did, but it was also, this is something that has opened a lot of other doors. And since, immediately after winning that award and quite regularly since, we've had inquiries about the cookbook from all over the world. We've had the opportunity to sell the rights to it in a number of languages, I think 7 or 8 at the moment.
It's already in German, isn't it?
A major publishing house in Germany were one of the first people to get on board with it, and they launched their book in October last year. It's just called Health Food, but inside it's all German. So it looks kind of the same, but it's all German versions inside, and they are selling that in every bookstore in Germany, which is a market that we weren't able to reach by ourselves, but we've found a partner who's helping us do it. And that's just such a gratifying thing, and it's very much affirmation of what a good thing it is. And there are a number of more languages, particularly around Europe, and we're continuing to work on opportunities and pursue them around the world that we are looking for it to continue to grow in that way.
Yeah, and one other thing I might just mention is because we're not hedging it as a vegan book or as a vegetarian book, I think this is another key to its success, because everyone in the secular scientific world loves it. Everyone in the media, every media interview I've ever done, the first thing they do is wax lyrical about how delicious everything looks and how beautiful, and no one feels like they're alienated, because wherever they are in their journey, all we're trying to do is push people along that continuum to become a little more plant-based every day.
I think that's very smart.
And I think a lot of people feel like people's health is one of the things that they actually get stressed about, which ironically is one of the things that then has a detrimental impact on their health. But so many people want to do better. They even feel a little bit guilty that they might not be doing some of the things as better. And so when we make it attractive, when we make it tasty, when we make it reasonably easy to do, they want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And this is an invitation to that.
Well, I see here that you have something called seasonal menu plans. That's kind of an unusual concept. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, we would like to encourage people to learn more about where their food comes from. And in this day and age, few people know where food comes from. They found that children don't even know that a carrot comes from the ground. It comes from a packet, right? Let alone which foods come out in which seasons. And so because food tastes a lot better if it's consumed around about the time that it's grown. And even there is evidence to suggest that levels of particular nutrients, particularly micronutrients, are also higher. And this is the way people used to traditionally eat. Yeah. So we would love to encourage people to eat more seasonally. And we also know that's better for the environment, better for planetary health, rather than growing foods in glass houses and hot houses and transporting them 10,000 kilometres away. People can still use those ingredients, but if we can learn a little bit more about where our food comes from, become more connected with it, we can eat more seasonally as well as eating more healthfully.
Now, my understanding is that this cookbook is now available in any bookstore in Australia if I was in Australia. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that was actually a number of years ago when I was offered the job as book editor at Science Publishing as an Adventist church publishing house. One of the goals that I had was that I wanted to be a part of a book project that could be in every bookstore in the country. Because we've got good things to say and we should be doing things that are as good as anybody else is doing. And when we do that, we then should be able to do that. And working with Sue, we've had the opportunity to do that. And it's still a thrill for me to just wander into a bookshop somewhere and to see it on the shelf there and recognise that people have the opportunity to connect with something that is so much a part of what we've grown up with as a church. It's in a form that is attractive to people and that people want to get their hands on. We ran a competition just in the lead up to Christmas last year with the Good Healthy
Food Guide
magazine, Healthy Food Guide Australia magazine. And people had to not just kind of tick a box and enter a competition, but they actually had to write out what was their, 25 words or less, what's their favourite plant to cook with. And so it's not just, putting your details in and trying to win something, it's actually stopping and thinking about it. And we had more than 6,000 entries for that over a relatively short period of time. And that was such a fun thing to see, all of that, people responding to it. They want to be a part of it, and that we have something to offer to those people that are particularly interested.
Well, are there some other things that I need to know about this book in particular, or your background? You're from Australia. We're here sitting in California. I think maybe you've been on a pretty long flight.
We have. We're sitting here in the centre of one of the 5 blue zones.
That's it.
And really, I guess what we're trying to say, here's yet another tool, but this tool is packaged to try and reach the secular mind, packaged in a way that's very appealing to people all around the world, but still sharing that great message that we were privileged to have so long ago as Adventists before the science started to catch up.
Isn't that true? I mean, the science. My sister said in dentistry, she took dentistry, and she was back in the Midwest in Kansas. And they used to come around her classmates would come around her and worry about her all the time because she didn't eat meat.
That's it.
And they were so worried that she would faint or she would have some medical problem. And she told me when she was telling me this story, one of them would talk about his uncle just had a heart attack, and then his father just had a heart attack, etc. So this knowledge about plant food being important, and the message that we've had, I mentioned to you that on my one side I'm a 4th generation vegetarian.
Yes.
So we know that it's healthy, but my parents and my grandparents and great-grandparents are starting to do this before there was science.
But there was faith.
There was faith.
And one of the cool things one of the very good reactions that we've had to this book has been church members that have said, hey, we've got something that we can be proud of.
Yeah.
This looks like it belongs on the shelf next to everybody else's cookbooks. People can put it on their coffee tables or whatever, and they do.
They send us pictures.
And it's something they can give as a gift, whether it's a family member, whether it's someone in the community, even a community leader or something like that.
Or a program which they're running.
Exactly. And
they're using the concept to run programs for the community to help others, which is amazing.
When it looks as good as it does and when it works as good as it does, it's something that's not hard to share. It's
anyone can do it.
People, you give somebody a book like this, and people are genuinely appreciative because it's not, they don't for a moment feel like you're preaching to them, but there's a lot of good science and there's a lot of good theology and understanding and faith behind what we've done here. And so to be able to give someone a gift like that is attractive, that looks like it's, that it is high value, and that it's produced to the highest possible standards, that's how we should be sharing the good things that we have to share in the world.
Well, I think this is exciting. Thank you for being with us this evening. I'm delighted that we could have it as a hot health topic tonight.
It's our pleasure.
That's cool.
We're running out of time. Do you have some closing thoughts for this segment?
Well, so anywhere in the world, the easiest way to access this book is a book depository. And if you go to bookdepository.com and Food is Medicine, you can order it from anywhere in the world. It gives you a really good price and includes shipping. And we just, in the few weeks after the award, we got to number 39 on their worldwide bestseller list, which is an incredible kind of thing when you think that's every book in the world and we're in the top 40. That still blows my mind. And but it also means it can be accessed by anyone, anywhere. And you can get one or five.
Excited.
Buy one for everyone you know.
I'm excited.
Very cool.
Thank you.